Have you ever heard your parents warn you not to keep certain things in your room? Things like paintings or dolls, because they can attract spirits? They say that sometimes these objects become a doorway for something else to enter your life. Well, that's exactly what happened to the main character of today's story. For privacy reasons, we'll call her Jessy. Jessy begins her story by telling us about a trip she took with her family to a foreign country. This place, she says, had a reputation. Whispers of dark magic and sorcery being practiced there. But Jessy wasn't the kind of person to believe in such things. To her, magic and spirits were just myths, stories told to scare people. While exploring the town one day, Jessy came across a shop. A small, peculiar place selling hand-painted artwork. The paintings were incredibly realistic, almost disturbingly so. Each brushstroke seemed to breathe life into the images, as though they were more than just paint on a canvas. One painting in particular caught her attention. It was breathtaking, yet unsettling at the same time. The artwork depicted a young woman with long, black hair cascading down her shoulders. The girl's face was eerily lifelike, and the strangest part, her eyes. They seemed to follow you, staring, almost piercing through you, no matter where you stood. Jessy was fascinated. She had to have it. But her mother immediately refused. "This painting gives me a bad feeling," her mother said sternly. "Look at it, Jessy. There's something off about it. And don't forget where we are. We know this country has its fair share of dark energy." Even the man selling it looked suspicious. The shopkeeper, with his vacant expression and unnerving demeanor, only added to her mother's unease. But Jessy didn't care. She was drawn to the painting, obsessed with it even. Nothing her mother said could change her mind. Eventually her parents gave in and Jessy bought the painting. She was thrilled. The rest of their vacation went by uneventfully, and when they returned home, Jessy couldn't wait to hang her new treasure. "I was so excited that the first thing I did when we got home was hang the painting on my bedroom wall," she says. And that's when the problems began. "The first night after we returned home, I hung the painting on my bedroom wall. That's when things started to feel strange. I couldn't explain it at first, but something kept waking me up in the middle of the night. It wasn't a noise or a dream, just a strange, heavy feeling that pulled me out of sleep again and again. I'd wake up, try to shake it off, and go back to sleep, only for the same thing to happen. This continued for about a week. Then one night, something happened that I can never forget. I woke up again, feeling that same unease I had grown used to. But this time, as I sat up in bed, I froze. My eyes drifted toward the painting. The girl with the long black hair. Her eyes were looking at me. Now, you have to understand, this painting wasn't even directly in front of me. I had hung it on the right-hand wall of my room. Logically, her gaze should have been facing forward, away from me. But in that moment, I swear to you, her eyes were staring straight into mine. A cold chill ran down my spine. My room, which had always felt warm and safe, suddenly felt suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination. I pulled the blanket over me, squeezed my eyes shut, and waited for morning. But things only got worse. 2 nights later it happened again, but this time it was different. I wasn't just waking up because of that strange feeling. This time, I felt someone touching me. It was faint at first, like a light tapping on my back, as if someone was gently trying to wake me up. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The tapping continued. Slowly I turned my head, praying I wouldn't see anything. And that's when I saw her. The girl from the painting. She was standing right beside my bed, staring down at me. Her face was pale, her long black hair cascading down like a shadow. She didn't move. She just stared. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. My throat locked up, and I could feel the terror surging through my body like ice water. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something else. Something even worse. She wasn't alone. The room was filled with shadowy figures, dozens of them, maybe more. They had no faces, just dark, featureless shapes that loomed in the corners and along the walls. They were all standing still, their shadows stretching toward me, their presence heavy and suffocating, and they were all staring at me. I don't know how long it lasted. Seconds? Minutes? It felt like years. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. All I could do was lie there, paralyzed by terror as they watched me. Jessy pauses here in her story, her voice shaking as she remembers. That night, she says, felt like it lasted forever. I've never been that scared in my entire life. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I did was look toward the wall where the painting hung, but it wasn't there. At first I thought maybe it had fallen off, so I got out of bed and looked around the room. Nothing. The painting was gone. Confused and more than a little shaken, I went to ask my family. "Who took the painting out of my room?" I demanded. But they all stared back at me, confused. "What painting?" they asked. "No one's touched anything." I didn't believe them. How could they not know? I had hung it up myself just the night before. I convinced them to help me search for it, and after looking all over the house, we finally found it. On the roof. Yes, the painting was on the roof. It wasn't just the location that was strange. It was the state the painting was in. The once vivid colors had melted, as though someone had poured water over it, or it had been left out in the blazing sun. But that didn't make sense. I had hung it up at night, and when I woke up it was still dark. There was no heat, no sun that could have caused the paint to melt. My confusion quickly turned to anger. I confronted my family again. "Who took the painting up there? Stop messing with me!" But they all swore they had nothing to do with it. Every single one of them denied moving it. That's when the realization hit me. If no one in my family did it, then what did? My mom was especially disturbed. She had been against me buying that painting from the start, and this was the final straw for her. She looked at me with a serious expression and said, "Jessy, we need to get rid of that painting. It's not safe to keep it." This time, I didn't argue. I had seen enough. I had lived through enough. Whatever was happening wasn't normal, and I wasn't about to take any more chances. We got rid of the painting that very day. To this day, no one knows what happened to it. Maybe it was destroyed, or maybe, just maybe, it found its way into someone else's hands. Someone who saw it, just like I did, and thought it was beautiful. And who knows? Maybe you've seen it too. Maybe you've even bought it, without realizing it. And that brings us to the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed it and that it sent chills down your spine. If you did, don't forget to like the video and show your support by subscribing to the channel. And hey, don't keep the scare to yourself. Share this story with your friends so they can experience it too. Your support helps us bring you more terrifying tales like this one. Thank you for sticking around till the end. I'm Phobia, and I'll see you in the next story.